Hi Chantel, so this is the follow-up tutorial that I wanted to show you, and I'm just going to do this live. I'm going to try to install your plugin directly as I do this, so that you might see a couple of mistakes or ums and ahs, but you get the whole deal here. I'm just going to show you a little bit of background information first on why Pantheon is a little bit different than most hosting companies that you've ever dealt with. So the first thing you should know about Pantheon is that their live environment, where your hosted live site lives, is actually read-only. That means that you cannot do some of the things that WordPress normally allows you to do if the file system is writable. So for example, installing plugins directly within your site is usually the way you would do it, but it is also a backdoor that a lot of hackers use to insert bad code into your site. So Pantheon saw fit to completely rearrange how hosting is done and actually do the best practice, which is to make sure that your live site cannot be written to. And that means locking it down at the file system level, some of the very lowest levels of things, so that hackers don't have any backdoors to get in. So this is actually a win, even though it feels like a bit of an inconvenience. But I'll show you how this works, so that in the future, when you want to add your own plugins or add anything like a new theme or anything that is code related, not content but code, you'll be able to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you here, this is your live site on your dashboard, and you'll see of course that there's no add button here to add a new plugin to your site. You can only activate, deactivate, change settings, etc. here, right? So even if you wanted to, you wouldn't see any upgrade notices on any of your plugins, right? So that's your live site. Work it out at mhcounseling.com. So Pantheon adds two different things to your site. There's a test site and a dev site. So the test site, like the live site, you want your test site and your live site to be as identical as possible. The test site also has everything locked down, so you cannot write to this site. So also there's no add plugin on this site, but the dev site, see how it says dev dash work it out mhcounseling.pantheonsite.io. This site actually does have upload plugin for using the add new menu item here. You can add a new plugin from the WordPress repository, but because you have your own plugin that you've sent me, I'm going to go ahead and install that using the upload plugin. So I'm going to click on upload plugin, and I'm going to choose a file directly from my file system here. So I'm trying to remember, yes, okay, so I can drag and drop it right to there. Usually I go through the choose file, but I happened to have a window open there, so I'll drag it in there. So there's the plugin, right? It's ready to install. So now I'm just going to click on the Install Now button. Okay, so right now you're seeing an indication that the dev site even has a block on writing. Okay, so I've kind of done this on purpose just to show you that sometimes this can happen, and it's actually intended. So I'll show you in the background what's going on here. So what's happened here is that the dev site itself is not in a writable mode. You can actually make dev not writable, and there's a couple of reasons you'd want to do this, but I'll go into those in just a minute. So if I want to change that, then I need to log into the Pantheon dashboard. Okay, so the Pantheon dashboard shows you this series of tabs across the top, right? You have your live site represented here, you have your test site represented here, and you have your dev site represented here. Okay, so the dev site, test site, and live site all have a series of workflow tabs here. And the one we're going to spend a bit of time in right now is called the code tab. The code tab is where things are handled on the code level, adding new plugins, adding new themes, adding PHP files, or whatever else you need to do. So right here we see that the development mode for the code tab of the dev site is set to Git. Now Git is a repository management feature of Pantheon that allows developers like me to keep track of what is happening to your site over time. Any code that we add gets tracked so that in the future we can rewind your site based on an ID number back to a specific moment in time. So it's a little bit like Mac Time Machine functionality, where you kind of have a sort of a backup of what you did in the past. So if you add new code to your site and that code breaks your site, you can use git commands to roll back. So if let's say I added this SendGrid plugin and something broke, I can roll back your site to this version here, and everything will be fine. And then I can fix the problem and go ahead with that, right? So that's something that I as a developer tend to use a lot. But you, wanting to add stuff to your own site is totally fine. All you need to do is make sure that you're set to the SFTP connection mode. So I'm going to set that right now, and it's saying enable on server development. This is called on server development in Pantheon speak. So this is where you're able to develop or add code to your site, such as plugins or themes, on the fly using SFTP. But you don't even need an SFTP client to add your plugin, because we've already tried to do that here. So now that I'm in SFTP mode, that makes this problem go away. So whenever you see this, you automatically know, oh, I must not be in SFTP connection mode. So I'm going to switch back over to that in the Pantheon dashboard. All right, so I'm going to come back in here and I'm just going to reload the plugins page just to make sure that the current session is set to be able to write. Okay, so now you can see all of these update bars here saying, hey, this plugin is ready to update, this plugin is ready to update. I'm going to ignore those for a minute, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on Add New, and we're going to try that exercise again. So I'm going to upload plugin, and I'm going to drag your plugin straight over to here, so it's ready to go, and I'll click on Install Now. Wait for a second here. Alright, so now it says unpacking the package, installing the plugin installed successfully. So now if I want to, I can activate the plugin. Now, here's the thing. When it's anything that you want to track on the live site, you do not want to enable it typically on the dev site, because then for such a thing as a Facebook pixel, you will end up tracking things that are happening on your dev site, and those will show up in your metrics. So I'm going to refrain from activating the plugin at this moment. I've just added the plugin, the code is on the site, but I don't need to activate it just yet. So now, jumping back to my Pantheon dashboard, I see here's my dev, here's my test, here's my live, here's my code tab that I'm on, and now I see 88 file changes are ready to commit to the dev environment. Click here or start typing a commit message to see details. So I can click and see some of the details of that plugin. Now I really don't care, the plugin's going to do what it's going to do. I'm not the coder, let's say, and so I'm not really interested in that. If I were, and I wanted to see the changes that are happening, I would just click on that file, and then it would show me a diff, or a difference of what was added to your code base. And all these plus signs mean this line was added, this line was added, and it's going to be, if you're all green here, it means that the entire file is brand new. If it's red and green in a different combination, it means that the file was changed. Even if it's completely red, it means a file was deleted. So that's all you need to know about that. So when you're ready to go ahead and move that plugin up to your live environment, just do a quick add commit message here. So we're going to say added Facebook pixel plugin. Okay, so that just is it's a reminder of what you did with that particular commit. So I'm going to go ahead and hit commit on that, and it's saying I'm going to commit those code changes. So up they go, syncing code on dev. Alright, so that's there, and it says added Facebook pixel plugin. Good, and if I want to, I can see the diff. See if that loads. Sometimes this is a little slow, so we're just going to wait for a second. Sometimes if it's a lot of code, it can take a while to show this, so I'm just going to abandon that real quick. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here we are. We've added our Facebook plugin. So now if I click on the test tab, I'm going to see another box like this one. It says one commit is ready to deploy from the development environment. Okay, and so I can deploy that same message. So I'm just going to copy and paste this just to keep it rolling through the entire environment set. Added Facebook pixel plugin, right? So this time I'm not committing necessarily, I'm actually deploying the code from development to the test environment. So this is a deploy log message. A little bit different from a commit log. So I'm deploying that to test from dev. And there it is, it's deployed. Okay, so I still don't need to activate this plugin on test because test is test, right? We're just we're moving it through the stages from dev to test to live. Now the reason we have a test site, and sometimes we forget this, the reason we have a test site is to try something out after we've added new code before we push it to live to make sure that that the site does not break, right? So what I would normally do is, if this were a plugin that is going to affect live, I will go in here and I will just visit the test site and just see that everything is working after I've activated the plugin. But because this plugin really can't work and do its thing until it's on the live site, oh, look, interesting. We have some interesting errors here. So this is a good example of why we need to troubleshoot things. All right, so I just reloaded test, and it looks like that was just a momentary glitch. I'm just going to reload it one more time just to make sure everything is still good. Yeah, okay. So it could be that test was just warming up and it just had a little bit momentary error, so it's fine. All right, so test is fine, but this plugin doesn't do anything until it's on live, so we're just going to click on the live site tab. Okay, so now here we have the live site tab. We have, again, the deploy log message, and we're just going to paste that same message right into this box and click on deploy code from test to live. Okay, and so now we are deployed to the live site. So now your plugin will appear. So here's dev, right? Here's test. Oh, sorry, it looks like I got them mixed up. Okay, so here's dev, right? That's where we installed the plugin. Then test is where we pushed it to, right? So let's just check on that just to see what happened there. We'll go down to plugins, and we will look for that Facebook plugin. It should be, oh, here it is. It's not activated here on test because we didn't come in and activate it. Don't need it to be activated on test, just on live. All right, so there it is. We see it there. So now we'll do the same thing. We'll come into the live site. Oh, this says test. So we had two test tabs, that's why. So we'll go to the live site here, and we will just refresh this. And here we are. Here's the official Facebook Pixel plugin. Now, when you're ready to activate it, you just click on the activate link here, and then it will take you probably through a series of steps that's in the documentation that came with the Facebook Pixel that you're trying to install. Just follow those instructions and add the information that it asks for, configure it the way you should, and you should be ready to go. So to review, we have gone through the dev test live workflow on Pantheon. We added code to the development mode of SFTP here through the upload plugin here, and we didn't activate it on dev. Then we pushed it to test, and then we pushed it to live, where we will activate that plugin and add the configuration information to it. So one other thing I wanted to show you is that there is something about the workflow that is important to understand. I'm going to see if I can find that here. Okay, so here it is. So we talked about how code goes to live, right? So that includes like a plugin or a theme or any like custom code that you want to add to your site. That flows from the dev site to the test site to the live site. Now where your content is concerned, things like blog posts and pages and design, anything that is user generated, those types of things, if you have a forum on your site or if you have an e-commerce site where it's taking orders, right? That stuff is all living on the live site. This is your most current copy of all of your content. Test and dev can quickly get out of sync with that. Like if in the next couple of minutes somebody makes an order on your site, if it's an e-commerce site, the live site is going to have the order, but the test and dev site are not going to have that order, right? So you want to make sure that your content, you don't push content from dev to test to live, right? You don't want to clone your site from dev to test to live, only the code. So what we just did, that's only the code, right? And so you want to make sure that anytime you do anything with content, let's say you want to make a change to your site with code, and you want to see how that works with the code, new code on the site and with your current content. You would then clone your live site down to your test and to your dev environment. That way you can see how the new code is interacting with your current content, right? But unless you're launching a brand new site that has never been launched before, or unless you've frozen the live site so that it's in a maintenance mode and people see a coming soon page, right? And you're making your content changes here to purposely push to live, you don't want to push your content dev test live, right? So just to repeat, unless your site is frozen and you've got all of your newest content here that you want to push to the live site, or unless this is a brand new site that you've never launched before, you only want to have content flow from live to dev and never from dev to live. So that's just a little thing, a little lesson that I learned when I first started using Pantheon in 2014. I made the mistake of making all my changes to content on dev and pushing it to live, and I didn't realize I erased some new content on live, and I had to kind of restore from backup, which isn't hard, but it was a panic moment for me. So just if that didn't make sense, just go back over this part of the video and just listen to it again. There's also this quick start tutorial. If you go to pantheon.io docs, you can get to that really easily. So pantheon.io/docs, and you click on the get started, and there's a quick start guide here, and that will walk you through everything having to do with the basics of using the Pantheon dashboard to manage your site, launch your site, test, and do all those types of things we've been talking about. So I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you have any questions, you can contact me, but this should get you started in being able to do kind of the basics that you were used to on GoDaddy or other hosting. It's just a little extra couple steps, but they do protect you from the hacking and all that kind of stuff that's going on out in the world. So until next time, thanks.